What's up, everybody? Welcome to Clear the Cash. I'm your host, Nate Liss. You can find me on Twitter at an outraged Jew. And with me, as usual, is Jesse. You can find him on Twitter at planet_fatness. Guys, I think he just went over 100 followers. Let's keep pumping this man some followers. Pick his brain if you've got questions about cards of all types, whatever sets, rookies. Hit this man up. Ask him directly. He'll answer whatever you've got. He's probably one of the most educated individuals in the Twitter sphere. So follow him. Definitely planet_fatness. Jesse, this is another one of these episodes where we are recording late. It's very late for you. Is it almost 11 o'clock where you're at?
Yeah, it's about 10:45 over here. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's 7:45 over here and I'm falling apart already. So I'm going to need you to carry the show for me. So you just got off work. So, shout outs to you for going straight from work right back to another job on here doing this podcast. And you probably heard a little bit of the news, but Dez Bryant tested positive for COVID while on the field at the game and went on a tweeting spree on Twitter and shocked the world because Dez Bryant didn't even know that he was positive for COVID at this point in time. I mean, especially he's on the field. There's players all around him. There's even a tweet, photos of him hugging other coaches, players, and it says, Dez Bryant, close with other coaching staffs on the field right now. But yet, the NFL came out and said nobody else was near him. There's no high-risk situations. Only Dez Bryant is positive, which cannot be true if he is face-to-face with these people. As far as you understand the virus, Jesse, does that seem right that somebody else probably has it now?
As a healthcare worker, that statement horrifies me.
Yeah.
There is. Yep. I feel sorry for the coaching staff that was on the sideline that made close contact with Dez. They're probably going to have another outbreak.
Well,
I'm sorry, guys.
It's crazy because the NFL goes, game on, Dez. You're the only guy who's got to leave. So Dez Bryant goes on this tweeting spree, and his first tweet after being asked to leave the field goes, "Tell me why they pulled me from warming up so I can go get tested. My shit came back positive. I tested positive for COVID. What the fuck?" We're getting live breaking news from Dez. Dez is breaking his own news from the locker room. A tweet immediately after that goes, "The crazy thing is I have the same damn routine. This shit does not make sense to me." Okay, so then the next tweet, the one that went viral, was the one where he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for the rest of the season. I can't deal with this." So Dez Bryant's played 2 games this year, as we talked about off show, claims that he's going to retire. And then his next tweet, because these are so great. He goes, "Since I tested positive for COVID before the game, does the game stop or go on at NFL?" Well, the game's clearly going on. And then the best one is the next one. And this one blew up. He says, "I'm about to drink some wine and cope." So Dez Bryant was on the sidelines or in the locker room or wherever it is you go after you're, air quote, the only guy who tested positive for COVID, even though he was hugging coaches and players and shaking hands and high-fiving and in the same proximity as other players and probably in the locker room, in the tunnel, and wherever with other players. Which leads me to the question, Jesse. Prior to this, after this, before this, was there any value for Dez Bryant cards? Did anybody in the universe want Dez Bryant cards?
If you guys had any Dez cards before this and didn't sell them as soon as he signed with the Ravens, you're never going to see that money again. Unless if you just have a hardcore Dez fan in Dallas or anywhere in Texas, you're not going to see that money again. I'm sorry.
That's brutal to hear. I mean, fortunately for me, I own no Dez Bryant cards. I have Dez Bryant in no leagues. Even worse than owning a Dez Bryant card and not having sold it when he signed with the Baltimore Ravens would be actually starting Dez Bryant while on the Baltimore Ravens in fantasy football. I mean, that might be like the worst final chapter that you could possibly have come across. But Dez Bryant tests positive for COVID. Goes on a tirade, Twitter storm, and this circulated the internet. But it's not the most prominent tweet that I want to talk about. It's a great tweet. It's a great series of tweets, but it doesn't move the market as much as a Gary Vee tweet moves the market. So for the people out there that don't know who Gary Vee is, Jesse, can you give people just just an outline of Gary Vee and kind of his role in the card market?
Sure. So he's obviously, I'm sure you guys have seen a video or two or scrolled by a video or two of his either on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. People share his videos all the time. And he's an entrepreneur. He has kind of a really savvy business mentality. I've watched plenty of his videos about sports cards in the past, and admittedly so, he kind of, helped steer me towards focusing on the card market back in like 2019 and then early in 2020. So I can't really, trash him too hard, but yeah, I mean, he's a guy who's been collecting cards since he was like 10 years old, and he moved to North Jersey from Belarus. I think his intentions are good with with the prospects of the hobby and the basketball card market. He has, just like anywhere else with, motivational speaking and, you know, uh, like a business mentality and giving people like career pointers and stuff, and like, helping people establish their own businesses or content creators or whatever. He has a huge following in the card market. There are a lot of people will specifically go out, look at a Gary Vee tweet, see if he mentions a player and or their sports cards, and whether he's trying to do it or not, I don't think he's trying to do it, but he has such an intense following that he actually creates like a crazy spike in that player's cards. So this guy, when he speaks, everybody needs to listen. Um, I remember back in, I think, May or June, he had a huge IG post that featured a bunch of Devin Booker, Shaquille O'Neal Beam Team rookie cards, and maybe some Julius Irving and Vince Carter rookie cards. All four of those rookie cards like tripled over the course of a week. Like, this guy has a serious following in the sports card market. So when he talks, I listen. You should listen. Everyone should listen.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, he's part of the reason that I found myself as involved with the sports card thing as I have, and of course with your help and motivation in this. And yeah, Gary Vee is one of these guys that like quit making excuses. Like you can come from the very bottom and make something of yourself, and he's got irons in every fire. I mean, the guy has a million different brands, a million different ideas, and he continues to innovate. And he really does sort of single-handedly move the card market in a big, big way. And, originally, like you said, he made a video, I think maybe back in the summer, that got a lot of popularity, a lot of plays. I think was it a couple hours long of him?
Yeah, it was. I think it came on his own media network first. Then he released it to YouTube, or like he did a YouTube live or something. It was back in like March of 2020, and it was kind of like 45 minutes to an hour of him just kind of going through his own thoughts about, why he thinks the card market's going to be hot again, and like it's going to be like as hot now as it was in the 90s or even hotter. And then like a 2-hour Q&A session. So it was like a 3-hour total video.
I love it. And he had a tweet recently that really, really, really coincides with what you and I have been talking about off air, on air for feels like episodes now. But this Gary Vee tweet from December 6th, just 2 days ago, goes, "Sports cards are about to get really hot, ... again, ... Even hotter than they are right this second. Basketball is going to be insanity." And we've seen it. You and I have talked about it. These young star players in the NBA, their cards were already taking off before this tweet. I mean, they were already over, starting to like peak in value, just like preseason. We're not even in preseason. We're just shortly removed from LeBron James winning a title. And these cards are already, excuse the pun, on the rebound, going back up. And we're watching all of these rookies. And I've continued to search. I mean, I missed on a card here just before this episode started. And I'm still looking at these rookies. But Gary Vee saying that about basketball in particular, but just cards in general, has to move the market a ton. And I mean, in your opinion, NBA alone, how many people read this tweet and then went to eBay and started looking at these guys?
Probably thousands, honestly. I mean, this guy, I don't think he's trying to artificially inflate the market. I don't like, he's rich enough to the point where I don't think his card collection, like tripling or quadrupling in value, is really going to do that much for him financially, honestly. He's a millionaire already, self-made millionaire. Like, he's honestly fine, whether or not the cards do well. So I think his intentions are good. I think I do think he is actively trying to help people and make them aware that there is a market as hot as this. Um, and I mean, he's not going out, like, I think he kind of learned his lesson from a couple months back, or like when NBA was getting hot in the summer. He's trying not to mention, specific guys' names, because he's seeing, he understands the magnitude of his following, so he doesn't want to artificially inflate a player's prices. Like, he knows if he invests in a player, he has a feeling that that player is going to do well at some point. So I think it, honestly, the tweet's healthy. It's going to spark a lot of interest in the market for sure, because, like I said, a lot of people follow him. But yeah, I mean, also, he's like super plugged in, honestly, with what's going on. Like, there's a reason he's saying this. He might not, he might go a couple months without tweeting about cards in general, especially if, like, he's said before in the past that he's like a huge Jets fan. So during football season, there's not much he's concentrating on outside of the Jets and like VaynerMedia, and that's it. Like, that's like all he's concentrating on, and like maybe signing new athletes and new talent to VaynerMedia. So he hasn't tweeted about basketball cards or any cards at all since, I want to say, like August or something. But he has connections with very smart people in the hobby, or in people who've been around in the hobby for a long time. So I think he definitely knows what he's talking about. And this is something that you and I have been preaching since we started this show like months ago.
Yeah, it's just cool. It makes you feel like you're doing the right thing. Even when basketball was tapering off, it was clear who was going to the finals. We were beyond the beginning of the bubble. We were getting to the tail end of the playoffs, and it was kind of like we were still looking at basketball, because for that exact reason, it was a condensed offseason. There really was no decline. There was this, okay, these guys that weren't in the bubble, Devin Booker or whatever, these guys they're rolling right in. The NBA's starting up again. And with how crazy, I think the free agency frenzy really did help this out as well. When you look at how many guys changed teams, like marquee players have changed teams. And the landscape of the NBA looks so different. I mean, I haven't been more excited to watch NBA than I am going into this next year. Like, we got LeBron. He won another title. The Lakers look primed to go back-to-back. You have all these high-end players have switched teams, from Russell Westbrook to Chris Paul to, like, all these guys are shuffling around, John Wall. It's like, okay, I want to see what's going to happen now. Like, I've never been more excited to watch NBA basketball than I am right now. And you take that fandom, and you take the Gary Vee stuff, and you take the people that are already interested in cards, and they're like, well, shit, this market's going to get hot. It was already starting to go. Gary Vee does this, boom, cards go up. Here's a question for you. We don't have to acknowledge it right now. I put a link in the show sheet. I'm watching a card in the background. There's an Amari Cooper. It's a 2015 Shield, 1 of 1. It's a rookie. It's an Amari Cooper rookie, and I'm sitting here. There's 13 bids. There's 11 minutes left. At the current price, it's at $36. Jesse, is this worth trying to win?
The fact that I'm not the biggest fan, I'm going to be honest, of just like patch
Yeah.
cards with no auto. Um, but I mean, everyone has their own preferences. But if it's a shield, if it's like the NFL shield, and it's a 1 of 1, and it's an Amari Cooper rookie card, that kind of piques my interest a little bit. The fact that it's $36 right now seems kind of like it seems pretty cheap. Like you've sent me what I think was a Jalen Rager 1 of 1 shield earlier in the year.
Okay, I remember this. Yeah.
But yeah, but I think that card went for, I want to say went for over
Yeah.
$100. Like, and you and I were talking about pre-show, like even sports card flippers, investors, and collectors, they kind of like, whether they want to admit it or not, there's a fair deal of rookie fever in the card market, even in football. So there are going to be guys like Amari Cooper and like other veteran wide receivers that are kind of forgotten about, or basically being like disrespected in the card market, and this seems like suspiciously cheap.
Well, I'm going to set a timer for 8 minutes because there's 10 minutes left on it. We're going to come back to this because I want to talk about Justin Jefferson and the hype around Justin Jefferson currently. I said this on a recent podcast. You and I have talked about this a little bit, but for me, and it's not just recency bias, for a lot of reasons, again, looking at the current situation, looking at the future, looking at the competition around them, I actually prefer Justin Jefferson to Ceedee Lamb. And prior to sort of these guys getting drafted in their rookie drafts, when we knew where they landed, those were my top two receivers. Ceedee Lamb was number 1, Justin Jefferson was number 2. So for me, it's not a big jump. I love Ceedee Lamb. He's one of the best prospects we've seen in a very, very long time. But what is really shocking to me about Justin Jefferson's production, outside of the fact that he's doing what only 5 other wide receivers have done in history, and most of these guys won Offensive Rookie of the Year. When you look at, guys that went over 1,000 yards in 12 games, Anquan Bolden, Rookie of the Year, Odell Beckham, Rookie of the Year, I think Randy Moss was one of those same guys in that group. But what's shocking is the narrative against Justin Jefferson coming into the league was that he primarily played in the slot at LSU, that 98% of his receiving yards came from in the slot. Look at him at the NFL level, 20.8% in the slot, which is the polar opposite to Ceedee Lamb. So all of his production is on the outside. This was not what people said about Justin Jefferson. It's the reason I wanted him to go to the Eagles. It was a team that played a lot of 2 tight end sets. I figured this was going to open stuff up for a slot receiver. He went to the Vikings. I was a little disappointed. He's been excellent with the Vikings. The air yards have been there. Jesse, from the research that you've done, from what you've seen, tell me the story. What's going on with Justin Jefferson? Is the hype just too much right now? Are you hands off of Justin Jefferson?
So before I kind of go into what I'm doing with Justin Jefferson right now, I did a little bit of research in terms of looking at his Mosaic raw prices, and Prism only came out like within the last week, so that data isn't quite up to snuff yet. But the Mosaic was released back in like early September, like around September 11th or 12th. So I've been kind of tracking his Mosaic raw silvers. So the reason I'm tracking raw is because we've mentioned time and time again, um, for graded cards to come back, and assuming people aren't paying like 2 or 3 business day prices to get Justin Jefferson rookie card graded and back in your hands within a week, which is going to cost you like $50 or something, or $100, whatever. It's going to cost a lot of money. A lot of people aren't doing that, so I'm guessing there's a good amount of Justin Jefferson cards that are submitted, but it's going to take like 6 months or so to get them back. So the only reliable data we have right now to work with is of just raw cards. So I've been tracking his Mosaic Silver Prism, or I'm sorry, his Mosaic Silver Raw card on eBay. Like I said, the set came out on September 11th. On September 12th, I guess was the first sale of the Silver Raw. It sold for $65 upon, like, that was like on basically on the release date. And interestingly enough, I guess there was more of availability, or there was more inventory on eBay, so more and more Jefferson cards were being listed. So the price went all the way down to like from like $60 to like $10 in like 2 weeks, with wild. Um, then so they kind of, I mean, that was kind of an overcorrection. They jumped back up to like the 20 to $30 range shortly thereafter. On September 27th, in week 3 against Tennessee, Jefferson had his breakout game. He went for 7 for 175 and 1. His raw mosaic silver prices jumped from like $20 to $56 within the next like 2 or 3 days. And then 3 days, yeah. So 3 days later, they went all the way back. Yeah, they went back to that like $55 to $60 range. Then they regressed to the $30 to $40 range between weeks 4 and 6, and then week 6 he had his another blow up game against Atlanta where he put up 9 for 166 and 2. But surprisingly enough, like his prices, I mean, they went up, but they didn't like 3x or 4x like they did before with the Tennessee game. And the reason being is that more and more mosaic raw cards and raw silver cards were readily available on eBay. So I think a lot of sellers were just trying to see what they can get for him, but his raw mosaic cards weren't reaching like $100. They were still in that like $50 to $60 range, just because there are so many of them. So, and then the prices dropped back down to $45. He kind of had a 2 to 3 week lull in fantasy and real life wise. And the cards dropped all the way back down to the $20 range. But then they've picked up over the past 4 weeks, because I think he's had half PPR. He's had at least like 14 fantasy points each of the last 4 weeks or something, like something ridiculous.
Yeah, he's had over 17.6 fantasy points over the last 4 weeks, finishes the wide receiver 10, 17, 6, and 4, and had more than 107 air yards in all 4 of those weeks.
Because of that, his raw silver mosaic cards are back up to like $65 right now.
Wow.
Like at what they were selling when the set originally was released.
Wow.
So what I kind of find interesting with his market is, I told you this pre-show, but we've been talking a lot about basketball, and basketball, it's especially with the younger players, it's like super speculative. Prices vary pretty quickly. Like we've talked about, I've been able to flip Lillard cards and Hero and plenty of other guys. So these guys' card prices fluctuate accordingly to how they've been playing, like pretty rapidly in basketball, and they can 2, 3, 4x in like a week's time. So what's encouraging to me is, I know it sounds intuitive, but Justin Jefferson's cards are doing essentially the same thing. And I'm hearing from, like I've talked about this with some of my other like card buddies who are like strictly basketball and not into football at all. And they're saying, oh, like football, it's kind of a weird investment. Like, quarterback is king. I wouldn't know if I want to put that much money in football, but we are literally seeing what happens in basketball in Justin Jefferson's card prices, which is encouraging to me, because it means that people are paying attention to both Justin Jefferson on the field and in his card prices. So people are actually searching his cards up on eBay, which is encouraging to me. Yeah, so we can totally see production is definitely driving his market. But truth be told, it's a little, like I said before, it's a little early to judge his raw base prism prices. They've been pretty steady for the last week or so since the set's been released. They've been in like the $20 to $30 range. From what we've seen previously, I know I'm going to go to another sport here in basketball, but for 2019 Mosaic Basketball, those cards dropped in value actually when Prism Basketball was released. Because Prism, whether we like it or not, it's king in the hobby for all sports. So I think we're going to see something similar. With Jefferson specifically, it might be a little bit different because he's in the middle of a hot stretch, and I think he has a couple other good matchups to end the season. So we'll see how his prices do. But I mean, once you see those Mosaic prices drop back down to like the $30 range or $20 to $30 range, it might not be a bad idea to scoop them up. And moving a little bit to Prism. Those Prism raw prices are actually going to dip a little bit once the supply is more readily available, just like Mosaic. So that should take probably 2 to 4 weeks after Prism is released. So it might not be a bad idea to look at Justin Jefferson's Prism cards 2 to 4 weeks after the release date of Prism.
Jesse, I don't want to stop you. There's 30 seconds left on this Amari card. What are we doing?
Shit.
And then we'll get back to this analysis.
What's the price at now?
$38 with 25 seconds left.
Let's go to 60.
You think go 60? You think it's not? You think that high?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that card should go for at least $100.
All right, I'm winning. Bid placed. Confirm bid. You're the highest bidder.
What's it at?
It was at 42. So I got it. So 44 current bid. So I got it for 44.
Dude, you got it for a fraction of the price
Wow.
that Jalen Reagor's NFL Shield
wow.
1 of 1 went for. People are kind of sleeping on Amari. And, worst case scenario, if Dallas decides to move him for whatever reason, like, dude, he's gonna flourish somewhere. Like, it's just crazy how like guys like Amari are just, I don't know, his Prism prices and other prices are just being straight up disrespected right now.
I mean, look, okay, so Amari Cooper's 26 and a half years old. What's stopping him from being Devontae Adams in a different system? I mean, he's just as savvy as a route runner as Devontae Adams is. I mean, Adams is averaging 26.3 fucking fantasy points a game. If Amari could go anywhere else and be the sole guy, which we believe there's a chance that Amari does end up leaving Dallas and they retain Gallup and they obviously Ceedee Lamb on a rookie deal. It's totally possible. But when you get a card like that, so I bid 60. The highest bid beneath me was 44. So I closed at 44. Like,
dude, that's for a shield too.
Yeah, for a shield.
Shield cards are sick. Like if you guys have an opportunity to get like a 1-of-1 shield, doesn't even have to have an auto, just a 1-of-1 rookie shield. That's usually if you're looking at it from an investment perspective or a flipping perspective, you're gonna find somebody who is either a shield collector or a collector of that player, and that would be an awesome card to have in that collection.
Wow.
So
that's just
that was a savvy buy.
Yeah, man. What were the odds that it was gonna break like that for us right there? Locked it in with the 60. Good call. Guy tried to jump it. I mean, the previous bidder only tried to jump it like $5, so didn't make the effort. That's how I missed out on a card before the show started. So there we go. So total price after taxes and shipping, $51.50 on an Amari Cooper rookie NFL Shield 1-of-1. That's a win, folks. And that's a win. Okay, so Jesse. Okay, I lost a card one time when I didn't pay for it because I was doing other things. I lost that Donovan Mitchell rookie for whatever reason. But I want to talk about the Justin Jefferson thing because I think you made a great point. You talked about how people are paying more attention to what's going on week to week. It's part of the reason we talked about Chase Claypool weeks and weeks ago after he had that monster Mapletron game, right? When he blew up for 4 touchdowns, 3 receiving, 1 rushing, I believe. And what's really special about Justin Jefferson and not making a dynasty debate between Justin Jefferson or Ceedee Lamb, even though I just did on Patreon, patreon.com/I'm outraged. I will be simulcasting this to our podcast network as well as on Patreon. So there's more card stuff, more analysis over there. But when you look at Justin Jefferson's production, the reason I think a lot of people are so hyped is when do you see a guy go for 175 yards, 166 yards, 135 yards, 121 yards? It just doesn't happen. I mean, this guy's having such monster blow-up games that I think we're being forced to pay attention to what's going on, and he's doing it at a level that nobody else has. I went back and looked at the other 4 receivers currently that are over 1,000 yards receiving. I think that's Devontae, Hopkins, DK Metcalf, and I think it's Tyreek Hill. And every one of these guys has, with the exception of DK Metcalf, who has 98 targets, every other guy has 111 targets or more, while Justin Jefferson is sitting at 84 targets on the year. So he's having a hyper-efficient season. So just for all these reasons, there's so much excitement about him. But with Justin Jefferson's prices being very dependent or moving proportionally with his production on the field, does that necessarily mean that Ceedee Lamb, a player that we love that are kind of neck and neck right now, did that make Ceedee Lamb like an extreme value considering Dak gets hurt, his production dips? We realize that the future for Ceedee is immense, but this is about the low point for him, isn't it?
It's just about as soon as Dak got hurt, his prices have kind of been, they were hanging out where Justin Jefferson's are right now. So his Mosaic Silver Raw was hanging out routinely in the $60 range, if not more. Like I've seen his Mosaic Silver Raw. As soon as it came out, it went for something stupid. Like I'm talking like $200 for a raw card, which is that's wild. But ever since Dak's injury, his prices have been kind of hanging out in like the $30 to $40 range, which is that's a pretty good value for Ceedee. I know we were gonna talk about a couple of NFL rookie receivers, but Ceedee Lamb is not a guy that I'd hesitate to look on even right now. Yeah, so his cards are for sure value. I mean, like if you have a quarterback as dynamic as Dak go down with as an excruciating of an injury as he had, all of the Cowboys skill position players' cards are going to drop, even CDs. So it's definitely looking like a pretty good buying opportunity right now for Lamb.
What was crazy was I was reading that when you look at quarterbacks that have played on the franchise tag, it's rare that any quarterbacks get franchise tag. We've seen it with Drew Brees back in 2005, and we saw it twice in a row with Kirk Cousins, and now we've seen it with Dak Prescott. And the concern with Dak Prescott on the franchise tag was, would they do it to him again when they had to do, I believe it's 20% of the salary cap at that point for his new deal, which would have been about $38.6 million. The concern was, what if he gets hurt? Dak got hurt fairly significantly. And this is the same thing that happened to Drew Brees back in 2005, had nearly a career-ending shoulder injury. They don't franchise tag him again in San Diego. What happens? Signs a 6-year, $60 million deal with the Saints. The rest is history, which is kind of something that keeps going through my head. It seems like Dallas isn't going to let Dak walk, but they didn't meet him halfway during the season. Dak wanted a 4-year contract because a lot of agents believe that 5 years from now, we're going to see a shift in the market, new advertising deals, new TV deals, which means the contracts are going to inflate. So a lot of these guys want to get out in 4 years. Dallas wanted a 5-year deal, didn't happen. Boom, Dak gets hurt. Crazy situation. So that's one of my concerns with Ceedee Lamb. If Dak comes back, it's green light for Ceedee Lamb. So it's a bit of that risk reward thing, but I think Jerry Jones would be an absolute fool if he didn't just come to the table with a Godfather offer for Dak Prescott. Despite the injury, he's supposed to recover well before training camp. I think they said it's a 4-month injury. So Ceedee Lamb's cards are, they're definitely lower right now. And a question I wanted to ask you, because there are more rookies. There's Michael Pittman, who's flashed a little bit. There's Jalen Reagor, who we like, Jerry Jeudy. Brandon Ayuk is a sneaky name. T. Higgins, clearly one of those names. But like you talked about, a lot of these Prism cards have just recently come out, haven't they? And this is sort of like the baseline for the future rookie cards of these guys. So what have you seen with these Prisms coming out now in terms of prices? I know we talked a little bit about Justin Jefferson in terms of mosaics, but where are we with the Prism? Should we expect them to be more expensive?
I think right now it's probably, well, it's kind of an unfair comparison to compare the Mosaic Silver Raw. I just looked at Mosaic Silver Raw data, not Mosaic Base. So those prices will probably fall more in line or a little bit cheaper than the Prism Base. But yeah, I wouldn't buy Prism Raw cards immediately, like within 2 weeks after the set is released to the public, because people are really hyped on Prism. They're gonna, people are hyped on Prism basketball. They're gonna be hyped on Prism football too. So for the first maybe 2-3 weeks of the set being released, you're probably gonna see a spike in all of the rookie receiver raw cards. But then after, maybe there's kind of a sweet spot between like maybe 4 to 6 weeks after the set's released, the supply increases significantly on eBay. So the supply will kind of, it'll start meeting the demand at a more reasonable price. So you're gonna hit kind of a sweet spot between that 4 to 6 week mark after the set's released. So you'll see prices start to dip. So if we can get like a Justin Jefferson base prism, raw base prism for like $10, I think that's a win. Or like in like the $5 to $10 range, that's like a steal. So I'd probably wait, honestly, to buy his cards in maybe, Prism was released December 2nd, so maybe like early January to mid January, something like that. And that's the same case with a lot of the other rookie receivers, like especially somebody like Michael Pittman. I need to start looking at Michael Pittman cards a little bit more, because he missed a good chunk of the season because he had compartment syndrome. So that missed time definitely hurt his prices. I'm going to be looking at guys like him. I honestly, Nate. I have the Breakout Finder app. I've seen Brian Edwards' rating more than once, plenty of times.
Yes.
And I am not shy with looking at Brian Edwards cards now too. If it doesn't happen this year, I have a good feeling it's going to happen at some point.
That's hilarious that you said that name. I was in the shower earlier today, and okay. I don't remember exactly what part of my process of showering I was in, but I was like, oh my God, Brian Edwards, what's going on? Where is Brian Edwards? And I was like, I got to look at Brian Edwards cards. Like, you're right. I think you bought a Brian Edwards Panini Black Auto not too long ago, like maybe like 4 months ago when we were talking. It's what led me to buy a Chenault Auto. It's a race to the bottom right now between those two. We'll see what happens. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, think about this. So what I love about Michael Pittman, don't know what the story is with Phillip Rivers, but anything can happen over there. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott. I don't know. Any number of these players could become the future quarterback of that roster, Cam Newton, and suddenly Michael Pittman becomes a star on the outside. I expect T.Y. Hilton to see, regression over time here. He's getting older, kind of a speed player. He's been great the past couple of weeks if you needed help in fantasy, but Michael Pittman truly does seem like the guy. Maybe Paris Campbell will come back. That's a name we've talked about. Another guy that people should really be looking at. His prices don't get any cheaper than they've been. He was starting to flash a little bit of that breakout at the beginning of the year, and then we lost him. So another very exciting second, third year type name to keep your eyes on. I was just looking at Justin Jefferson, just kind of thumbing through some of these Prism cards. He's got a 2020 Prism Silver Hollow rookie raw on December 4th. You want to take a guess at what it sold for?
I'm going to say, like 120?
What if I told you it was nearly 5 times that number?
Are you kidding me?
$600 on December 4th.
Raw.
$600. I'm sending it in the chat right now just to verify this. This is $600 sale right here. Totally raw.
What if that card gets like a PSA 8?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
you lost hundreds of dollars.
what a great point that Jesse makes too when you're buying raw. We've talked about this before, like really trying to examine the car that you are going to purchase and make sure that it checks out dimensionally, visually, surface-wise. I mean, all these things, front, back, what did the seller note? Yeah, exactly. What if it comes back a PSA 8 and you paid $600 for a raw card? $600.
Do you know like how many, I don't know, Tyler Heroes you can get with that? You can get like a Devin Booker rookie, like a legit Devin Booker rookie card for $600.
And this card right here is like peak Justin Jefferson right now, where Devin Booker is going to jump. He is going to, man, him and Chris Paul. It's going to jump, man. And just get ready for it. That's why we keep talking about NBA. Get positioned in NBA because it's going to see the largest like market value shift. Those cards are going to move so much. Glad I got a Tyler Hero. But yeah, I was looking at these cards right here. Holy shit, man. Like here, okay, this is what's crazy. So a Justin Jefferson, Panini Prism, Red Wave, Serial 149, Auto.
Oh, okay.
Auto, okay.
All right, I'll say, I don't know. I'll say 200.
$500.
Jesus. Is it a sticker auto or on card? Can you tell?
I think it's on. No, it's a sticker. Let me see. It looks like it's.
Oh no.
Looks like.
No.
Oh, hold on. Oh, now I'm clicking too much. It looks like a. You can't take it. It looks like maybe it's a. Hold on. It's a sticker. Yeah, you can see the Panini banner on it. Yeah, it's here. I'm gonna send you.
Not worth it for a sticker auto. If it was on card, that's still a lot, but a sticker, no.
There's a link to where I'm searching. So Jesse, tell me this thing, because this brings up a good question. This is something that I'm interested in. The difference between on card versus sticker, like in the card market, in the world of cards, as a consumer, an experienced consumer, why is that different to you?
People are very high on card autos, myself included. It's just kind of nice to know that there's a chance that the player was actually holding the card that you're holding. There's a difference between sticker autos. Like player X will get like from Panini, they'll get like 100 or 200 or 1,000 different stickers sent to their house, and they have like a certain amount of time to sign them, like a couple months or a couple weeks or something. So they never actually see the card that they're signing. So people in the hobby kind of discount sticker autos for that reason, because guys just signing a single sticker and it just gets placed on a random card. It can be these stickers can be placed on virtually any Panini card. So if there are certain sets that they require or on-card autos only, like something like National Treasures or Immaculate or Flawless. That's why those cards are at such a premium, and those like RPAs are at such a premium. So like for me personally, I try to keep my sticker autos to a minimum. If it's somebody really expensive, like an all-time great, like I showed you a couple weeks back, I got 2009, I believe, not on card, sticker LeBron James auto that was like a BGS 9.5. His on-card autos are like, we're talking like over $10,000. Like they're expensive, especially if they're highly graded. So I'll make exceptions to guys like LeBron or like all-time greats, but I try to limit my sticker auto inventory of up and coming guys or guys that aren't like on a Hall of Fame trajectory.
Interesting.
Just yet.
I don't know that there's any other podcasts out there right now that are telling people the difference between on-card and sticker, but that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's the same as when we talk about like an RPA or like a patch auto or a jersey auto or whatever. Was it game worn? Was it not? We've seen a hilarious picture. You can Google it, of Mark Ingram with like 50 jerseys on at one time, and that was classified as as worn by the player.
Event worn.
Yeah, event
they
worn.
call it event worn.
That's so hilarious. Like literally, there's a picture of Mark Ingram with like 30 jerseys, one over the next, over the next, over the next. I mean, that's amazing, and that's what you're getting. I can't wait for this Amari Cooper Shield card to show up. Okay, so I got one last question for you, Jesse. Guys, so everybody that's listening to this podcast, we're going to continue to try to do more. Jesse's very, very good at this, obviously very knowledgeable. I appreciate having him along for the ride because I'm learning a lot as well. And we're going to continue to crank these out. And it looks like we're getting more and more interaction on Twitter, on social media. I post this to Facebook, post it to Twitter, post it to Reddit. It's all over the place, guys. Again, please follow Jesse. He is a wealth of knowledge at planet_fatness. Maybe try to convince him to change his Twitter handle. Jesse, one last question that I want to go out on, and maybe next week we'll come back with a little more concise show, but I think this is the type of show that I want to stick to. I like the shiftiness of it. We get the nuance of the cards. We get some Twitter information in there. We get to hype up Justin Jefferson. It's great. So right here at the very bottom, I got one last question for you. You got two players. Which one of these players' rookie card is going to be worth more come week 1 of 2021?
Henry Ruggs for sure.
Oh, haven't even...
Henry Ruggs. Out.
Yeah, but he said it yet. Don't even ask the question. He's so ready to answer this question. Is it going to be Henry Ruggs or Gabriel Davis? Yes.
It will be Henry Ruggs 100%. There will still be hype. I know Ruggs' season hasn't been as well as a lot of his card collectors and investors have hoped. But he's still going to have a lot more hype. And, Tyreek Hill isn't going to hurt. Tyreek Hill's presence in the AFC West isn't going to hurt Henry Ruggs' prices because, and if draft experts have been talking about AFC, there's the reason that the AFC West, that their AFC West opponents chose guys like Ruggs and Hamler in this past draft because they go against Tyreek Hill. And even when the Chiefs are playing the Raiders or the Chiefs are playing the Broncos, you'll see in-game comparisons of these guys to Tyreek Hill. So Ruggs was very hyped going into this year. I think people are just going to chalk it up to either bad luck or just, a not so great rookie season. And he's going to have hype going into 2021. So it's Ruggs by a mile, but I feel as a counterpoint, I think Gabriel Davis's cards are probably going to be about as cheap as they're ever going to be right now. So I don't think either of them are terrible buys.
All right. Well, you heard it there first. I mean, this is our resident expert, Jesse. Again, follow him on Twitter at planet_fatness. Jesse, you look like you need to go to sleep. You look very fatigued right now. You've got the haircut. It's a good, clean look on you. If you guys want the video or you want more card analysis, again, I do this on Patreon, patreon.com/I'm outraged. Follow Jesse on Twitter. And we'll be back next week with another episode, hopefully just as meaty for all of you people that are looking for more card content in your life. This is Clear the Cache.